Hey everybody, Black Ninja 797 here, and welcome back to Myth Busting Mondays. And I just want to say is that it is great to be back here making videos for you guys. For those of you that do not know what has been happening in the last few weeks, I have basically been sick and recovering from a variety of different things, with the most recent of them being COVID. And I was just completely worn out and just could not make videos for the life of me. But as of currently right now, fingers crossed, I am 100% healthy and feeling like myself again. So that is amazing. And I just want to just give 30 seconds of appreciation to every single one of you that wished me good luck and good health and just all sorts of other kinds of nice messages. It really means the world to me when I see stuff like this, because all I've ever wanted to do was make amazing content for all of you to watch. And when I can't make it, it really bums me out. But when I see these supportive messages, it just really warms my heart. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that said something and was just patient with me. It means the world to me. It's just one of those things that is just dumb luck, you know? But I just wanted to say thanks. But now with all that out of the way, I also wanted to let you guys know what the final myth of today's episode is going to be. And it's a really cool one. I think you guys are really going to like it this time around. The final myth of today's episode, guys, is going to be, can you put out fire by using a fire extinguisher in Left 4 Dead? For those that don't know this, there actually is functioning fire extinguishers in Left 4 Dead, and I never have thought to do this. I actually think that this is something that should be taken quite literally, but you never know with game logic, so I thought, hey, why not test it and just be sure? So that is going to be the final myth. If you guys end up enjoying today's video, please drop a like. And with all that being said, guys, and it's good to say this, let's get on with this week's episode of Myth Busting Mondays. Myth: can you kill a sleeper with common ridden if you throw a bait jar at it? Alrighty guys, so myth number 1 is going to be submitted in by Glotbursko. Now there's one thing that I would like to point out about the sleeper that I did not know originally until I found out a little bit ago. When it comes to the sleeper's HP, it's at 1, which means that any sort of direct impact by anything is enough to kill the sleeper. So the problem is with the bait jar is that if I throw it directly at the sleeper, it's going to kill it. So the only way that I can get this to sort of work is to miss the sleeper slightly and get the bio bomb or the bait jar's mist to be around him, and hopefully the zombies will still be attracted to him. Now the good thing is that when it comes to grenades in Back 4 Blood, when you hold down the trigger, there is this red sphere that you can see that will allow you to be able to figure out where that the grenade is going to fall, or where its radius will be. And that means that I can judge whether or not I need to throw it at a certain distance near the sleeper in order to end up missing, but hopefully still end up having some sort of effect on it. But as you guys can see, it's very, very hard to end up having the bait jar kind of miss the sleeper, because you have to miss on purpose in order to not kill it, but you have to be just close enough that it actually affects the sleeper in some sort of way. And it looks like that from what I was able to achieve, it looks like that the sleeper is not affected at all. So this means that myth number 1 is going to end up being busted. You cannot end up killing a sleeper with common zombies by throwing a bait jar at it, although that would be a cool idea, but the reason for this is just because a direct impact to get the bile bomb to work on a sleeper would result in the sleeper dying because it only has 1 HP. So unfortunately the myth is busted, but it was still a cool idea nonetheless. Myth: can you die to spitter acid in the rescue vehicle as the ending cutscene is taking place? Okay guys, myth number 2 is going to be submitted in by Zoe. Now to give some context on something that relates to the myth here, I want to talk about a patch that was involved in the Last Stand update. So prior to the Last Stand update, if you were to incapacitate inside of a rescue vehicle, the game would declare you dead within the credits. However, with the Last Stand update now in the game, they made so that way if you end up being incapacitated in a rescue vehicle, you are alive in the credits, implying that basically you got medical aid, and then that way you didn't die. Now the thing is though, is that when it comes to the spitter acid, if you were standing in it at the time that the cutscene happened and you were leaving, would you hypothetically off camera be able to seek medical attention, or would the spitter acid kill you? That's basically what the main gist of this myth is. So the rescue vehicle is coming over now, and what we're going to do is we're just going to spawn in a spitter on the boat, and we're just going to kill it as we're running onto the boat and running over the spit that falls out of its body, and we're just going to have Dan stand inside of it alongside Tyler to see if both, or one of them at least, ends up getting killed by the spitter acid by the time that the cutscene commences. So here goes nothing. So we're going to spawn a spitter now, and then we're going to run onto the boat, and we are going to see if whether or not that Dan or Tyler dies. So here comes the spitter now, and we're shooting it, so let's run onto the boat and see if anybody dies. So Dan is in the acid now, and it does say that in the kill feed that Dan ended up getting killed right as the screen went black. So it was almost at the exact second that the cutscene happened. But now the moment of the truth. So as the boat ends up going into the screen fades to black. Who ended up dying? And it looks like that the only person that died was Dan. So if we take a look at Glabursko's POV again, you can see what ends up happening is that Dan ended up having a lot less HP than Tyler did. Tyler ended up having 30 by the time that the cutscene happened, so he was able to live and survive the spitter acid despite being in it by the time that the cutscene took place. Now, based off the way that Zoe's myth is worded, Zoe wants to know if you can die versus if you can survive. So since we ended up dying in this myth, that means that Zoe's myth here is going to end up being confirmed. You can indeed die to spitter acid if it's in the rescue vehicle with you by the time that the cutscene takes place, if your timing is just very unlucky. However, though, if you're like Tyler, where even if you're standing in it, if the timing is just right, you can also still survive. So it treads on the border of plausible, but at the very least, it's confirmed. Myth: does acid ignite gas cans in Back 4 Blood? Okay guys, myth number 3 submitted in by Tyler. Now, there's a couple of different examples he gave of some zombies that we can test that end up making acid, and the one that we're going to use is going to end up being the Shredder, which is the newest variant of the Reeker family, which is like the Boomer equivalent in Back 4 Blood. So right now I'm standing next to a jerry can. Glabursko's going to make his way over to me now, and he's going to kill me. Now, at the time of my death, my body is going to end up convulsing and spitting acid everywhere and making a giant pile, just similar to like what the spitter would do in Left 4 Dead. And as you guys can see, there is no fire on the ground, meaning that the myth is going to end up being busted. You cannot ignite a gas can with acid in Back 4 Blood, which is interesting because from a gameplay standpoint, this means that this is very similar to the way that this works in Left 4 Dead, where in Left 4 Dead you have to, for example, pick up a gas can first before something like a spitter can destroy it, which I think is interesting. Myth: can you rocket ride with propane tanks in Left 4 Dead 2? Alrighty guys, the next myth is going to be submitted in by Dangerous Grace. Now, this myth is kind of unique. I like the fact that we're going to be using a propane tank to do this instead of a grenade launcher, because the propane tank I feel like doesn't get a lot of attention when it comes to the explosives department. Now, every single one of us had a different strategy on what we thought would be the best approach, so I, and alongside the other guys, thought it'd be the best idea to just do our own thing. So Dan, Glabursko, Tyler, and myself all took a piece of the map and we just made it our own, and we tried different strategies that we thought would work better than some of the other ones that we had. Now, if you're wondering what my strategy was in comparison to the other guys, mine was basically to b-hop in front of a propane tank and just shoot it and basically get lucky. Because when it comes to the grenade launcher in Left 4 Dead, you have to jump to get that to really work. So I thought, hey, maybe it was a similar method when it comes to the propane tank. But unfortunately, the propane tank doesn't work nearly as effective as the grenade launcher. In fact, we ran into quite a lot of different errors. And the main thing that ended up happening that was the inconvenient part, was the fact that the propane tank basically just evaporates rather than makes a shockwave explosion type of thing that the grenade launcher does. And the other guys' strategies were no really better than mine because they ran into the exact same problems. So Dan, Glabursko, Tyler, and myself with 4 completely different strategies could not get this to work. So I think it's safe to say that the grenade launcher is just unique upon itself, and that this myth is just going to end up being busted. You cannot end up doing this, in my humble opinion. I think it's busted because we just could not get it to work to save our own lives. But maybe there's perhaps a way that we can get this to work with like an oxygen tank, for example, in the future. So if one of you guys wants to make that future myth, be my guest. Alrighty guys, now it's time for the final myth. And the final myth is once again going to be, can you end up putting out fires with fire extinguishers in Left 4 Dead? And I can't believe I never thought of this myself, but I think now is the best time than ever to test this and see if whether or not that's possible if fire extinguishers just simply do their job within the game. So let's jump into the final myth now and see what's what. Myth: can you put out fires with fire extinguishers in Left 4 Dead 2? Alrighty guys, so the final myth is submitted in by JJ Lipscomb. So JJ, thank you for submitting this myth. This is one of my most recent favorites. I think that it's very unique. So we decided to test this on No Mercy because No Mercy has fire extinguishers everywhere within their walls because of the fact that it's a hospital. And the way that we're going to activate the fire extinguisher is we're going to just throw Molotovs directly at it, because unfortunately we can't be reasonable people and not cause vandalism because we can't use the fire extinguishers as they were intended the way that the game is designed. So we're just going to throw a fire at it and just hope for the best. Do not try this at home or in real life. Alright, so Tyler's throwing the Molotov now, and there's fire everywhere, and you can see that the fire extinguisher did pop, and that mist is indeed coming out, although be it brief. And the thing is, though, is that unfortunately, since the Molotov causes a lot more fire than the fire extinguisher really has within itself, we really can't end up putting out the fire within reason. And we also did test this multiple times just to make sure that this wasn't a fluke, because of the fact that you would think that a Molotov would be able to at least have something happen to it when there's a fire extinguisher used on it, even if it doesn't put it out completely, because I understand that like Molotovs consist of like gasoline and stuff, which is a lot harder to put out than just a basic fire, but still you would think that it would at least flinch. But no, it didn't budge at all. There was no difference regardless of how much fire we used, how many fire extinguishers we used. I think that is just a thing within the game that was never programmed because, Valve never thought that anybody would attempt to do this. So even though it was a good try, I think it's a reasonable thing to say that this myth is going to end up being busted. You cannot put out fires with fire extinguishers in Left 4 Dead, as much as that sounds completely silly, but it's more effective and better for you to just jump flat out in the water instead of using a fire extinguisher. But yeah, everybody, that's going to be it here for today's episode of Myth Busting Mondays, and I do truly hope you guys end up enjoying. It's really great to be back, and once again, just shout out to everybody that ended up sending me a positive message or good wishes. You are forever in my thoughts, and I will forever appreciate you. And if you ended up enjoying today's video, please drop a like, comment, and subscribe, and all that beautiful stuff. And if you have a myth of your own that you would like to have be featured in next week's episode, please put them in the comment section down below. I really would love to see what you guys come up with. If you would like to financially support the channel, I would tremendously appreciate if you guys could go check out my Patreon, which is linked down below in all my YouTube video descriptions. Please also use my supporter creator code BlackNinja797 in all caps in the Fortnite and Epic Games item shops, because Epic is my very first sponsor and they are sponsoring today's video. Just shout out to Epic Games. And lastly, guys, I also want to let you know that I recently started a business. It is called Breakthrough Business. With Breakthrough, I'm going to be making multiple different psychology-themed courses on how you guys can end up improving things such as your character, your mental health, and also your relationships. All this additional content is going to be available at mastermind.com, and already within mastermind.com, I have my very first course out for you guys, which is called the Courageous Man Blueprint: How to Achieve Unbreakable Confidence for Young Men. So please check out every single one of those things in the description down below. But yeah, guys, I hope you end up enjoying seeing another YouTube video from the most unique YouTubers we're ever going to see. Thank you for watching, guys. I love all of you, and peace out.
Hey, meme lords. Jesus here. And you better have enjoyed that video there by the eternal god Daddy Ninja. You should probably subscribe too, or the mighty Moab will come for your balls. If you enjoyed the video, you might like it too. And give me the memes. Flash, bang, boom!